The ghetto, is it a mind state or a place? What's up, y'all? It's HPR Chronicles with Shakur and Smith. I'm film director Imani Shakur. This is my partner in crime, Smith.
What's
Christopher Smith. He's an Army vet. He works for the VA right now. I have a shameless plug today, too. I'm wearing my shirt from my kids' movie, The Kids from 62F. Make sure you check that out.
Very good movie.
It came out last year, October. Yeah, man, it's HPR Chronicles, History, Politics, and Race. You know, it's a podcast about all those three topics from a pop culture perspective. We try to break stuff down to you guys in the simplest form, you know what I mean, so you guys can understand it and have some fun. You know, it's about truth. It's not about, you know, opinions. It's about facts.
Yes.
The truth hurts. We're sorry, not sorry. We don't care. Just follow us on social media. Email us your questions or comments at rptalktruth@gmail.com, and we will get to those, man. And yeah, I want to shout out iTunes and Spotify and Google Play and Stitcher and Buzzsprout, all the podcast apps on iPhones and Android as well that's been listening to us.
Oh, nice.
We just started. This is only our sixth episode, and you know we're starting to get some plays. So if you want to, you know, look at these two handsome gents, like I always say, you can look at us on YouTube, but a lot of our listeners just listen to while they're in the car or working out or cooking or whatever. You know, so, man, today we're going to talk about a subject that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, about how the ghetto is not necessarily a place or a location, but it's more of a mind state. You know, and I'm going to tell you guys what I mean by that. What I mean by that is, so Chris, you're from Chicago, right?
Yep. Suburbs.
The suburbs of Chicago.
Actually, I can claim Chicago because I did live in Chicago.
You lived in Chicago.
Both.
Both. Now, the south side of Chicago, that's where a lot of the crime happens, right? Where the drive-by shootings,
yes,
stuff like that.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be considered the ghetto? I've never been there, so I'm asking.
There's areas, yeah. So I wouldn't, not the whole south side.
But just certain
there's
parts
areas
of the
that
south
you would
side.
consider more dangerous, so therefore a ghetto.
Right.
So before, there used to be a housing project called Cabrini Green.
Yeah, I've known.
And then there was also
yeah,
the Robert Taylor homes. Those would be really considered the ghetto. Ghettos, but they've been torn down, and which will go into what we're talking about. Is those places were torn down, and then the people were pushed and moved out.
Oh,
so gentrification happened, pushed them out. It's nice.
Oh, wow.
Drive through.
Because I've heard of Cabrini Green and all. I mean, those are famous projects, man.
Yeah, but gone.
Wow.
And so people have now moved to different areas,
right?
where housing is going to be lower.
Right. So what are some of the more richer areas of Chicago, the Chicago area? Is it downtown or?
It's the north of Chicago. You got Lakeview, Lincoln Park. Yeah, there's a lot. I'm just kind of going blank because
the
different neighborhoods.
What do you think would happen if you took the people from Northview, you said? Lakeview and Lincoln Park, and you moved them into some of those areas of South Side where we hear about all these drive-bys happening and all that? Well, what would that area look like, you think, in, I don't know, a few years? We took all the people from Lakeview, and
put them in a different,
and put them in those areas, and took all the gangsters and all the people that's shooting each other in the South Side.
Ideally,
and put them in Lakeview.
Okay, so ideally, the neighborhood would change and
reflect more of what
the people who had moved.
Who had moved there.
Because obviously if you consider that if that area is as safe as you would think, or then therefore the next area they move to, your attitude would move with you. So you wouldn't. Right. There's nothing that's changing.
Right. Hence my term at the beginning, the ghetto is a mind state, not an actual place. I mean, the same thing goes here. If you took the people from Beverly Hills and you moved them into South Central, Beverly Hills, South Central will start looking like Beverly Hills. and vice versa. Believe it or not. You know what I mean? If you go ahead.
So, and I definitely agree, because as I said, like those projects were destroyed, and the people got placed out, and the areas that they got moved into are not the safest at all. And it's got kind of your statement kind of goes with it, is that it's once they moved, it's not like they changed anything, but there's aspects to it that from what I looked up is that, or have read and watched and in the past, is it's also gang related.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's kind of crazy, is you really don't own anything. You know, like you take someone like Nipsey Hussle, who actually owned a block, you know, where, you know, you got people who want to own territory.
Right.
And then therefore they, kids walking like to school and have to go through different neighborhoods, have to deal with different, you know, issues of trying to get to school safely.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, but I mean, you know, but in talking about this subject, what I want to know is, why is the mentality even like that? And in bringing up that question, when it comes to places like South Central or the ghettos of Miami, Liberty City, Overtown, stuff like that, where I grew up most of my life in Miami, is making those places a better place more about infrastructure and resources, or is it more about the rehabilitation and education that we talked about on our reparations podcast? Because let's say Oprah, Jay-Z, all the billionaires dumped billions in resources. Let's just pick Liberty City, Miami.
Okay.
And try to make it a better place.
Okay.
Unless you change the mindset of the people, it would actually stay the same. Those brand new buildings would end up being run down.
Correct.
Over time.
You're right.
So then I have a question.
Okay.
Should the focus be education and rehabilitation first? Because once you get those people's mindsets to actually change, they themselves would want to better their communities and demand resources, and would demand their fair share of infrastructure and stuff like that.
So,
and fixing the streets and so on and so forth. I'm gonna give you a quick perfect example, and hold that thought. I got you. I remember where, and this is a perfect example of what I mean. Where we live here in wine country, right?
Yeah.
You know, where we are, guys, is about an hour and a half from downtown LA, depending on how close you are north on the 15. And I remember going to Wilson Creek one day.
Okay.
And noticing that they had redone Rancho Cal, where it passes Wilson Creek.
Yeah.
Brand new black pavement. And I'm saying to myself, I didn't see not one pothole over here. Why are they redoing the street? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
But I know that if a lot of potholes started to come, or maybe the side of my palm would come, people would probably start complaining. Because, you know, people in this area, we don't have that mind state where we'll be okay with that.
Correct.
You know what I'm trying to say? And I guess the city knows that, so we demand proper resources and infrastructure because of our mind state. You know what I'm trying to say? But go ahead.
Okay.
Keep going. But I need a pen too.
So to answer your question, is it education or rehabilitation? Right.
Right, and rehabilitation.
So I say it's more complicated than just one of those answers. And I go with twofold. It's education and opportunity.
Okay.
You got to teach, and people have to really learn, like your past, and then be inspired at what you can do for the future, and then opportunity, because if you don't have jobs nearby that allow you to survive every day, you then become more instinctive in a way. Like you're looking for, how do I survive the day, the week, whatever. How do I make rent at the end of the month?
Right.
As opposed to, like a lot of people are trying. I mean, it's not like everybody's, due to the economy, I'm going to admit everyone's thinking about making their rent or whatever.
Right.
But there's people who
just simply
surviving. But if you're able to survive and still have fun, enjoy your life, things are not that as feeling as bad,
Right.
So opportunity has to be there for jobs, and then the other thing is the education, and that's my theory.
No, yeah, I mean,
'Cause
I completely agree with you. But what I wanna get at is, why isn't there a demand for that opportunity? Like, where did our minds go? And because I know right after slavery, we had resources. We had Black Wall Street. We had millions and this, that. Now, I know a lot was taken from us. And so the question I'm asking myself, and the question I'm throwing out to our audience is, did our mind state get jaded? Did our self-esteem lessen because of what we went through that actually took us to this mind state where we are now, where we're not demanding resources and education and all that kind of stuff? Because the way I teach my daughter is, be a leader, not a follower. Get your education. You know what I mean? Take care. So this is the stuff that I'm demanding for her.
Correct.
And myself, but I have that mindset for a lot of reasons. So if you ride through South Central, let's say, where we are here in Southern Cali,
yes.
Why is it that those people aren't demanding the same thing? You know what I mean? Wouldn't it be crazy if all of a sudden you rolled through South Central one day and you saw everybody in the neighborhood sweeping the streets all of a sudden, and they're demanding cleanliness, order. You know what I'm saying? A serene, a serene environment.
Yeah.
A safe environment. Wouldn't that be crazy if you
crazy
roll down Crenshaw and Normandy one day and you saw brothers and sisters and Latinos, everybody living in the area sweeping up, and what are you guys doing? And they go, we're tired of it. This place looking like this.
Yeah.
We want it clean and nice for our kids. Why aren't they saying that? Because guess what? Where you live in your condo here in Marietta, Temecula, if it started to get like that, that's what you guys would do. The association, whoever would go, we ain't living like this.
Yeah,
we need to sweep this stuff up. You know what I'm trying to say? So that's an interesting thing to me. That mindset is what needs to be tackled to get rid of the ghetto.
I want to say that it also now you go for it's going to be resources as far as your government. Like, what is the city doing to improve itself? But again, if you don't have opportunities around like businesses, then who's getting taxed?
Right.
And that's how things get paid for, is your tax dollars.
Right.
So if everything's subsidized, that city government is not getting enough. So that's a good question, and I've seen where I grew up in Harvey, Illinois, go from being where it was a booming town. There was it was a suburb, so it was primarily white, and then of course blacks started coming in. Whites move out further south or to further south suburbs, and right now it's pretty deadly. So how do you get past it? The thing is it's so ingrained, I unfortunately feel, in some people. You have the breaking up of the family. Right. There's no, and when I say that, I don't put so much emphasis on it because I came from a divorced family, or my parents are divorced, and a lot of a few of my cousins are the same way. We're doing pretty well. So the thing is education and what you strive for, because some of it is within you. Other times it's, you could let the environment keep you down, or you can just strive. So,
going back to what you you said about the resources and stuff. Again, going back to those city councilmen of those communities, if the people had the mindset set to demand certain things and start voting city council people in that would support their thinking and what they want and
their ideas,
resources, their ideas and stuff like that, again, you would start seeing some change. But again, I keep going back to the same thing. It's all because of these people's mindset. It's not where it needs to be,
but it's
and where it's supposed to be.
I say it's generational though. It can it stems from perpetuates over and time and time and time. Thank you very much. Where you have grandparents who, or let's say great grandparents. They moved there. They were in that area, lived there for years. Were happy, and cared about it. Or it's the opposite, where you have people who come in, and then because some other groups move out, they abandon a lot of the resources for it. It's like businesses may decide to leave, not because they're scared of what's coming in, basically. So again, it's kind of an opportunity. That's where rehabilitation has to come in,
right? And the funny thing is, if we even take this to Africa, I was watching. Was it Nipsey Hussle? I was watching an interview where he was talking about the resources that were stripped from Africa. So when the European nations came and colonized and took over Africa, they stripped it of its resources. Yeah. Right? So in a case like that, where the ghettos in Africa can't thrive, their resources were literally stripped from them. So you have to ask yourself, how do you demand getting those resources back? You know what I'm trying to say?
I do get what you're saying. I don't know.
How do you? Yeah, it's like those people's resources were literally stripped. The diamonds, the gold, the this, the thing they make to use the cell phones. Oh yeah, everything they were all stripped from the African nation, from those different countries after colonization. You know what I mean? So in that case, in that case, what's funny, I'm not even sure if the ghetto is more of a mind state. It's more of a circumstance that turned into a mind state.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't. What I mean? I agree. Like I think it can be, a person could get potentially out of it. However, you always feel like, however, in any group, there's always going to be bad ones. So that's the problem, is you just got the bad ones that don't want to do anything. So then therefore they're going to rob a neighbor. So for the most part, where we are is safe. Right. But there's still break-ins. So it's just not a lot. And,
Yeah. And I have to say, like, not all of Africa is what they perpetuate on the media. Just like Cuba was nothing like I was taught throughout the decades. It was completely different. I was watching a video the other day, and this guy was in Lagos, Nigeria, and the first part of the video, the guy was like, now I'm sure when you think of Africa, you think of this. And they showed all these black people with, like, things, cloths on, this, that, and the other, and you don't think of this. And, we honestly need to take a trip, because I think we all have the wrong view of Africa and what it is, and it's not just what you see. And I know a lot of the nation and the countries have been colonized and divided and really disfranchised because of colonization and genocide and stuff like that. And I know over there, their reasoning or circumstance for being in the ghetto is a lot different from the U.S. What I'm saying here is, I really think that somehow we need to change the actual mind state of the people to get them out of the ghetto. So I know when Nipsey was killed, people were saying, should he have still been in South Central? Should he have bought that whole lot over there? Should he have bought the barbershop, the chicken place across the street, and stuff like that? And see, what Nipsey was trying to do, his mind state had actually changed.
Yes.
So what he was trying to do was change his surrounding based what was in his mind. You know what I mean?
And help other people around there.
Other people think and do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And someone with that opposite mind state, the poor ghetto mind state, ended up cutting him down.
Correct.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah.
So when people say, oh, when we get rich and famous, we leave and move out. Nipsey was one of those people who actually tried to stay and make a difference and make the ghetto not just a place. And he tried to make a change. And I honestly think that if we can get more and more people like him wanting to change the environment and make a difference, it'll be a big help. But it starts from here. Whatever that spark was in Nipsey, and I don't know if it has to do with him being from Eritrea, you know what I mean, and him having that different, that was a light that sparked him to want to make a positive change culturally and stuff like that. But whatever that spark he had is the spark. Imagine if all the brothers in South Central had that same spark he had. What a different place it would actually be.
I think most have the spark. It's just, again, it being cultivated. Them giving the opportunity, them
wanting
a
to
chance.
Make a change and stuff.
I mean,
like that.
there's always going to be your rotten apples, because you can't. Not everyone's perfect or anything, and even so, you don't give up on a group of people for the sake of because of a few, and I think it can be changed again. It just has to be. It's a lot though, and there's no simple answer. The thing is though, however, education should be a fairly easy fix. I mean, that's and then opportunity. When you learn, knowledge brings power. So
yeah. And I definitely gotta say that we have to get the people to want to change, want the education and all that kind of stuff. So what has to happen to get them to actually want to
do it?
You know what I mean? Because it's easier to say, oh, they need education, this, that, other. But if you go up to them and hand them a book and say, man, I don't want to read that, man. I want to get on the block and sip on a 40.
Well, I want to make this much money.
Yeah.
How are you going to get me to do that?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
They have to want something different. And it'll be interesting to see, and study what happened, how it all changed, when it all changed. How do we go from Black Wall Street to the ghettos of South Central and Miami and Chicago and Gary, Indiana, and you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I would
and
say
the fifth wards and fourth wards of Houston and all that. Like, how do we go from that to that? Because at one point we did have that mindset where we demanded land and property and ownership, and you know what I mean. So systemically over time, we were disenfranchised and stuff like that. And I guess I don't know. Did we just give up?
No, I don't. Okay, so I think,
mentally,
I think, and I can only really go after Harvey. I hate to do it. It's just I remember as a kid, like we would. You always had your parents told you to be careful, blah blah blah, and gangs were always around. Like, and I don't want to name, but there's been gangs in the Chicago area for quite some time.
From back in the Al Capone days, right?
Well, I'm just more going like, my mother knew of stuff when she was growing up, so that was before my time,
right.
And just that. So therefore, there was a mentality that started, and it was about. Instead of me trying to work at a bank or whatever, I'm going to make some easy money. So, that kind of goes and continues. And it just, each generation, someone's changing something else. So
it got worse and worse and worse.
Correct. Because, okay, so what I was trying to say is with Harvey growing up, me as a teen, I was riding my bike wherever. And that's cell phone days. My mother didn't know where I'm at. you know, and you get home before the street lights.
Right. There was you better come home before sundown for dinner.
You know, and I remember being careful what I did or said because someone else would see it and potentially go back to my mother and tell her.
Right.
You know, that stuff. What happened, I feel, is when the families get broken, parents aren't home, have to work so much. The kids now are just fending almost for themselves. Sometimes, you know, the worst circumstances, and then you got those who then end up just doing bad things.
Right.
And so then it just keeps going, and it just gets worse and worse. And so then you have an exodus of businesses. Mm-hmm. If you don't have something nearby, you got these abandoned buildings. You know,
exactly.
Who wants to work someplace and be stuck up? You know,
right?
Gun in your face. I don't want that.
Right.
So
exactly.
So that's why it's like you have to rehabilitate everyone to realize we can make our own changes. We've done it before, like you said in the past, and we could do it again. Mm-hmm. We just have to be united. Right. Remember, we watched the show Killer Mike, and how long it took him to spend money within the black community. Hours. Yeah. Everybody else, it was days. Right. You know, like that's crazy. Just seeing that blew my mind, and it goes, ergo, why we're not supporting ourselves. Right. You know, we've been, you know, I'll go to Jim Crow and before that, how we've been taught to hate each other. Right. You know, one's lighter than the other. Don't trust them. Right. You know? Yeah. And again, some of the stuff we've talked about in the past, like the whole N-word. Mm-hmm. Supposedly with the A means good, but people be shooting each other and using the word. So it's a mentality that has been perpetuated, and people just sit back and just laugh at us. Right. And I want to say I'm not just picking on on our people. I mean, if you take some of the poor whites in certain areas and move them to the ritzier white areas, same thing would happen. True. You know what I mean? And vice versa. And if you took, you know, some of the poor Cubans in Miami where I grew up, and some of the more well-off middle-class Cubans, and put them in the bad areas of Hialeah and Opa-locka and stuff, that would also switch. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The Kendall and South Miami, some of those places where have the more affluent Cubans, it would start looking like some of the bad areas of Hialeah and, you know, and this, that, and the other. So I'm not just picking on our race. And really, it's any culture too. Yeah, in any culture. I'm just saying, my whole point of it is that it's definitely a mind state. It's not a place. I mean, what you see in your environment, you know, what you're willing to be okay with is a direct reflection of what's in your mind. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like if you were in a mansion or I don't know, a middle class home like our friend, or even this townhouse where I am for right now, it's a direct reflection of what I'm okay with right now. If I was in some trailer park, you know what I mean, off of me. Yeah, but I mean, there's some people who might because of circumstances, because of circumstances, you know. Right. So I don't want to. No, I understand that too. And so what I guess I'm thinking to myself is, you could have people who are in a particular circumstance, but because of their resources, how much they can spend, and yet what they're trying to accomplish, they may decide to live in some place that's kind of rough, but they know that this is only a temporary plan. Exactly. And you're right. And the bad part is that it's a plan. I also want to say it kind of comes into politics, like you just said. The idea is you vote in people who would represent you and then take care of your area. But then you have scandals where people are getting payoffs, taking bribes, blah, blah. So there's so many little factors that kind of go into it. Yeah. But sometimes it comes back to voting, and then bring it back to the electoral college, and how, because black people don't vote, there are enough, we don't get people to represent us. Right. And the one time we did show come out. We actually got ourselves a black president.
Right.
You know, but if we were consistent, we'd
and
have more blacks
and stuff like that,
and in our own districts.
We get a lot more stuff done.
I heard someone say, actually, it was D.L. Hughley was talking about how was it Diamond and Silk? You know that is. So anyway, some Republicans were saying, and Diamond and Silk is 2 black women, and they were saying that the black United States population needs to stop being on the plantations of the Democrats and come over to Republicans. And then he broke down that 56% of African Americans live in the South. But yet when you look at the electoral map, when things go, it's always red.
Right.
It's always red. So either people are not voting, because I mean, obviously they should be able to. 56% of our population is in the South, or that's where they gerrymander make it so it's hard to vote in people that do represent you.
Yeah.
But that is another way to stop a community from voicing, getting the resources that they need to uplift their life in their community.
Yeah.
So that's my little way of saying get out there and vote.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Get involved in politics, because the more you, I was not the best person about politics until recent, and I look back and go, damn, there's so much more I could have done. I always thought, okay, I'm definitely going to vote for the president, but didn't care. So anyway, that's the difference.
Yeah, just to close it out, what I have to say is, I know there's resources, I know there's a lack of it, this, that, and the other, but I honestly think that if the people in those communities demanded more for themselves and of themselves, they would get with their elected officials within their districts and stuff and make a positive change for their community, because the ghetto doesn't have to be the ghetto. In South Central, if the mindsets of the people were right, they would demand some resources there. They would bring businesses in and stuff like that, and people would live a better life. And a lot of those streets with the broken down houses, those houses will start to look a lot different.
Yes.
You know what I'm trying to
Definitely.
say? So that's what I want to say, man. In closing, once again, it's definitely a mind state and not a place, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you have anything else you want to add before we close it out? That's it.
Pretty much it.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, that's our show. It's the HPR Chronicles with Shakur and Smith. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow us on social media. Thank you all the podcast streaming apps for picking us up, and all the listeners that's beginning to listen. Check us out next week. We're going to have another cool topic for you guys. What else did I want to say? Was that it?
Subscribe. Win $100.
Don't forget to subscribe. Yeah, I still have that subscriber contest going on. Still collecting those names and stuff, guys. Still going to give away $100, so definitely subscribe. And we'll do that raffle. Trying to get to 1,000 on this channel and all that good stuff. Yeah, and
CBD?
Oh, the CBD company.
CBD?
Yeah.
If anyone any information.
Chris is reminding me on all this stuff. Yeah, we started a new CBD company, CBD Organic Oasis. I'll put the link in the description if you guys want to, get rid of some of that anxiety, sleep better, pain, stuff like that. Some really good stuff. We have some real organic, great CBD, CBDOrganicoasis.com. That'll definitely be in the description as well. Thanks for bringing it up, because I forget so much stuff going on. Anyway, guys, it's the HPR Chronicles with Shakur and Smith. We're out.
Peace.
The ghetto is a mind state, not a place. Peace.